first of all, I didn't anticipate getting nauseous. This is ridiculous. Kind of fuck you guys for these choices, first of all.
This is Podcast New York.
What's up, Dueling Decades? This is Wax. Peace to all you guys, and thanks for having me on the show. Will it be the 90s or the 80s? Beanie Babies or Crack Babies? Will it be Nirvana or Madonna? Maybe Britney, maybe Whitney. Do you like new metal or new wave? Dave Grohl or Super Dave? I don't know. But now the battle begins. Dueling Decades. Let's see who wins.
Dueling Decades.
Broadcasting live from the Podcast New York studios, it's another all-new Dueling Decades, the adult-only retro game show where the decades battle for supremacy because it's your history. We just fight for it. I am Mark James, and this week we have for you a worst month duel. I'll be representing the worst of May 1989 alongside the other duelers and the decades they will be fighting for. First off is a man who did it all for the nookie. Say hello to Man Crush.
What's up? That's right. I got the worst of May 1999. You know what I'm so happy about too? We have a musician that's on this week whose first name is not Chris. I just realized this we have Chris DeMakes, Chris Blue, Chris Barron, and I think there was another one too. So I'm happy that we don't have a Chris. But if I call you Chris, no offense by it.
You can call me Chris Ballou all day. I'm fine.
Also joining us on the panel is the Media King of the North. Please welcome back Joe Finley.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Back by popular demand, my demand, not yours. I got the worst in 1979, and it's pretty damn bad.
And as always here on the show, we need somebody to adjudicate all of this awesomeness. So this week's guest judge is the vocalist, guitarist, and founding member of Wheatus. You can catch them on tour this summer with Everclear, Living Color, and Hoobastank. All rise for Judge Brendan B. Brown.
Woo!
Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
we forgot to tell Brendan? Brendan, this is a worst of episode. So you actually have to pick the worst pick from each round.
You know, okay, so that's what I need to focus on is what's terrible.
Yeah. However you want to pick it. It's up to you. You're the judge.
Okay. All right. I feel like I need an explanation of this Media King of the North tag. That's like
I am
way north.
Yeah, I'm the technical producer, and I'm Canadian, and they like to butter me up.
Okay.
We can't pay him well, so
No.
that's what we do.
So you pay in titles, I see.
Yeah.
It's still the best money I make.
Ladies and gentlemen, the following contest will be held under Dueling Decades rules. A judge's coin flip shall decide who picks first out of the 5 Dueling Decades categories: movies, television, music, news, and hot products. A judge's ruling will determine who wins each round, allowing the victor to choose the next available category. The first 3 rounds are worth 1 point each, with rounds 4 and 5 worth 2 points apiece. And in the event of a tie after all 5 rounds, we'll go to a final wild card round. Remember, duelers, to review the show, like, subscribe, and play along at home. It's time for more Dueling Decades. Let's go right over to our guest judge for this episode, Brendan B. Brown, for the coin toss. This week it'll be between Man Crush and Joe Finley.
Okay, so here we go. This is heads right here, the Dunlop pick. And this is tails. Nothing. Okay.
Joe,
Ready?
you do it.
Nothing makes me feel more nothing than nothing, so let's go with it. Let's go, tails.
Here we go, kids. Oh, tails.
Nothing is something today, baby.
All right, Joe Finley, you win the coin toss. You take control of the board, and you get to select our first category.
I was kind of hoping I'd lose so I didn't have to do this part. All right. Let us start with TV.
That's where I would have gone, Joe. I like it. Read
All
my
right.
mind.
A lot of garbage to choose from.
Okay, so I give you on May 10th, 1979, I give you the premiere of His Honor. This is a show starring David Huddleston. You might know him best as the real Jeffrey Lebowski in The Big Lebowski, or The Big Lebowski. He plays the mayor who lives at home with his daughter, who's a civil rights attorney, and his son, who's a hippie. And that's all there is to it. The daughter's played by Kathy Cronkite, which is actually Walter Cronkite's daughter. And Will Seltzer, who was, for 80s fans, would know him as the creepy guy chasing down Fred Savage in The Wizard. So basically the idea is this is the mayor. He's going through mayoral things, but for whatever reason, his very successful daughter still lives with him, as does his hippie son. And whenever he gets really frustrated in his day, he breaks out into song. That's right, folks. This old man mayor has a musical number in every single episode.
What?
But be very happy because there were only 7 of these episodes. It began in May. It ended in June. The show was actually the result of a desperate attempt from the NBC president, who was just newly appointed, to get some new life because they were in distant last, which is a hard thing when there's only 3 networks rocking. And so they put in a bunch of mid-season stuff. There was actually, in total, between the 3 networks, there were 36 brand new shows in the mid-season, and this was the kind of quality we were putting out. So, in the end, this is relegated to the dustbin of history. His Honor, May 10th, 1979.
All right, Man Crush, what did you bring for the television round?
Well, let's fast forward 20 years, which I really like that we're all 10 years apart. This is nice and simple. The last couple of weeks, we've been trying to do this, and I think it makes for a lot better of a competition when you have that decade apart from each other. But let's go to May 21st of 1999. And honestly, I don't know if this is a good pick or a bad pick because it's the final episode of a horrendous reboot. So even back in the 1990s, we were getting force-fed reboots. Although I think the problem now is that all of these reboots are typically mainstream. So you want to reboot a MacGyver? Great. That's going straight to CBS. Back in the 90s, at least they tried to hide these reboots a little bit. This show, it happened to be distributed by CBS, but they stashed it on UPN where no one would see it, which is pretty nice. I always have to watch my picks so I get a feel for what I'm talking about, since clearly I have never watched this show when it was on television. Luckily, I was able to find it on YouTube last night, or actually maybe I'm not so lucky because I'll never get that time back. But have you ever said to yourself, man, what happened to Robert Urich and Joan Severance? Me either. I never said that either. But if you did, this show is what happened to them. Sadly, of course, Robert Urich, he passed away a couple years after this show ended in 2002. And sadly, so did Joan Severance's career. During this 25 episode run, they did have some really notable names as passengers on the ship. You had Jessica Alba, Curtis Armstrong, Rue McClanahan, C. Thomas Howell, Danica McKellar, Kevin Nash, Jerry Springer, Lark Voorhees, Adrian Barbeau, Billy Ray Cyrus, Robin Givens, and even fucking Alf was on this show. However, none of those folks or the original cast of the legendary original could stop this ship from sinking into the abyss. And for the well-being of our listeners, I wasted 3 hours of my own life to watch this totally unfunny nightmare of a reboot. So do yourself a favor and do not bother to watch Love Boat: The Next Wave. I'd honestly rather watch my movie selection on repeat for 24 hours than ever watch a second of this show ever again. Totally unfunny. I had to pay attention so hard to figure out what was going on because there's too many stories. It's just shit. It is a shit show. But yeah, it's Love Boat: The Next Wave with Robert Urich and Joan Severance.
Count me in.
All right, guys.
Drown
so
me.
from my television selection, I actually went with the ending of a very good show that just didn't end so great. So let's go to May 14th, 1989 for the series finale of Family Ties. So nobody likes to say goodbye. This episode is entitled Alex Doesn't Live Here Anymore. It's season 7, episode 26. Alex packs his belongings for a move to New York City for a job with an investment firm. Now, each family member has a chance to say goodbye to Alex in this episode. Nick and Skippy even show up to help Alex pack his bags. And his ex-girlfriend, Lauren, played by the lovely Courtney Cox, she brings a gift over to Alex to say goodbye as well. So Alex states in the episode that his new job is going to pay him $75,000 a year in New York City. Now, when adjusted for inflation, that amount equates to roughly about $161,500 in 2021. So I don't know what the cost of living is in downtown Manhattan, but I don't know if 161,000 is going to cover that one.
Well,
So
I mean, I lived in Lower Manhattan. I know what goes on, and I can say that back then that would have been a chunk of change. You could have got away with something that was, I lived on the Lower East Side, Avenue B and 14th Street. It wasn't the neighborhood my mother wanted me to live in, but I could afford it. On my less than Alex P. Keaton salary, circa '96. So
So Steven's fatherly advice to Alex before he finally leaves is in this episode is don't lose your passion, and more importantly, don't lose your keys. And just like all loving family members do, when a member is getting ready to leave the house, the girls and Steven each measure Alex's room to see how much more space they will have once he leaves the house. Now, 36.3 million people said goodbye to the beloved Keaton's family that night. So let's take a look at what they were saying in the newspapers. We went over to the Akron Beacon Journal, May 12th, 1989, for a headline that says, Family Ties going out at length, but not in style. When Family Ties ends its 7th season run Sunday night with a special hour episode, NBC will reward the comedy with an unprecedented honor, a 10 extra minutes in prime time, so the cast can take a final bow and say goodbye. To make up for this self-indulgent spectacle, the network is actually pushing back the start of its movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, to 9:10. So let's maintain some manner of perspective, the article says. Family Ties has always been a fun half hour, but there is no need for this manipulative piece of emotional grandstanding, he says. He then goes on to talk about all the other great shows that never got the courtesy that Family Ties is getting with the extra 10 minutes. So he says NBC's Family Ties is quite enjoyable, hardly is earned mention with the select rank of company of all the other classics. Now, we're not saying goodbye to anything more tonight than a reasonably good series. NBC's campaign of overrating Family Ties tarnishes its legacy and is as embarrassing as the weepy 10-minute "so long it's been good to know you" exercise. So the guy even ends this article crediting Family Ties' success all to being in the one place you never want to be, right behind Bill Cosby. So that's what I got for my pick of the worst of May 1989. It's the final episode of Family Ties as we say goodbye to the Alex P. Keaton show.
You know what's funny though? Like, out of that whole thing, you described the whole episode, the only thing I remember from that final episode, because we watched that, was that bow at the end.
Yeah.
And it's total bullshit that he made that, because he was a fucking poli-sci major in college. So he did not come out of college making, what was it, 75 grand?
Yeah, $75,000.
That's poor research on the side of
now it's
NBC
interesting
on
that
one.
was the only thing you mentioned was the bow, because they completely cut that out of the episode when it went to syndication. So
Oh, well, makes sense.
all right, so let's throw it over to Brendan B. Brown, our judge for this evening, for the ruling on the television round.
All right. First of all, I didn't anticipate getting nauseous This is ridiculous. Kind of fuck you guys for these choices, first of all. But also, you expected total dog shit out of the late 90s, and the late 70s were not even close to better, with the exception of, All in the Family or Good Times. Those were okay. But I didn't even know about His Honor. I like that one. I missed that. It struck me as it sounded like it was kind of a cross between Night Court and In the Heat of the Night, but a total miss on both fronts in every way. Wasn't there another singing court show after that?
There was Cop Rock.
Cop Rock.
Cop Rock. Oh, Jesus.
They just sang everywhere.
So they did. The interesting part, I guess, is that they didn't give up on this idea. That's amazing.
Randy Newman.
Yeah. So, but also, Love Boat was never my speed, right? That was I thought that show sucked when I was a kid. I thought that was the worst, like, garbage. The first one that everyone sort of venerates these days, right? I was way into a show called The Phoenix with Judson Scott and like other weird stuff. Airwolf, I was really into Airwolf. R-Star Blazers, it's a cartoon. But that said, I was tempted to go Knives Out on Love Boat until you mentioned this disgrace of Family Ties thing. This is really, I am like, I might hang up on you guys. Like, okay. First of all, the premise of the hippie parents who used to be activists and now they're fucking Reagan, people, Blue Dog, whatever. Like, and their kid is look, Michael J. Fox is one of my favorite people to look up to from the 80s for lots of reasons. For Frighteners, for Light of Day with Joan Jett, like all this really cool stuff that he did. Teen Wolf. There's others, like we could go down the Michael J. Fox rabbit hole. Somehow he is insulated from the Dreckenschmutz of, this Family Ties, which I never bought as a kid because I didn't buy the whole like, oh, the hippies have like stockbroker son, like that just, something about it was like, also it was a little too close to home because I was like that. I was going through high school. I was a junior in high school or about to become a junior in high school in 1989. So I was in a Catholic college prep school that you commuted to on the way to New York City to like that. So it was all way too close to home for me, the Alex P. Keaton trip. And all I wanted to do was play guitar and piss every adult off that, I could find. But I'm going to go with, I'm surprised here, but I'm going with the Family Ties. That's horrific. You expect terrible things from the 70s and you expect terrible things from the late 90s, but you found a real turd in the
I'm shocked out of all of the stuff you named from Michael J. Fox and you did not name Back to the Future.
Well, I mean, we all know we need to talk about how great that is. Like that's the greatest triplex. Like sit and watch all three of them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do it once a year with my friend James Bourne from the group Busted, and we do like a watching party. Like, just you have to watch all three. It's the greatest, trilogy. It really is for me. It's the only one that makes sense where none of them suck. I don't think any of them suck. So I'll fight about that. But
I like the passion. This is going to go well by round 5. I can tell.